Hi everyone, welcome to JXG Spotlight. I'm Gamika De Silva, your host. Today, apart from all the topics we have been speaking so far, I have picked up a very different, interesting topic. To make a start to that topic, according to 2002 WHO report says 45% of the adults in Sri Lanka does not meet the physical activity levels. You guessed it right. We are going to talk about fitness today. And to talk about fitness, I'm no expert. I have a expert in the house today talking to me. And to introduce him, an interesting personality, Mr. Talavou Alailima. Mr. Talavou Alailima is a NCAA All-American Athlete Award winner, an Asian Championship ranked athlete, a South Asian Games medalist, and in Sri Lanka, he holds the record for shot put and discus throwing for over 25 years. And he has bettered the Sri Lankan record more times than anyone else in the history of Sri Lankan track and field. So that talks for its merit. Talavou also has been a sport nutrition and strength training consultant for many Sri Lankan national teams, clubs, schools, and champion athletes for over 25 years. He is a USA qualified strength training and sport nutrition consultant, educated at Franklin and Marshall College in Pennsylvania, USA. He holds a master's for sports management and sports management degree from IE Business School in Madrid, Spain. Talavou founded Power World. For the last 3 decades, Power World has been a dominant force in the Sri Lankan fitness industry, having the largest network in Sri Lankan gyms over the last 3 decades. So, Talavou, welcome to JXT Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
So today's topic, Talavou, I think, I have seen many videos, many documents on internet about talking about myths, etc. So I promised our listeners today, we are not going to talk about the technicalities of working out, that I will leave it up to you. But I'm going to talk about some interesting facts. Sometimes we are driven by these myths. Somebody said to do like this, a video said like this. So we are going to bash some of the myths in the fitness world. Before we go into all that, I have had the privilege of listening to your story. Would you like to tell our followers and our listeners, how did you get into fitness and, gym industry? How did it all started,
Thank you, Gamika, for having me over. When you talk about fitness, it excites me a lot because that's the domain I have been focused on for so long. In fact, the interest for, of course, fitness and exercise came about as an extension from sport. And right through my childhood, sports has been a very important component, from playing cricket to rugby and then to track and field, where athletics became the most dominant part of my sports career. But in school, I was involved in rugby, played rugby for the school, cricket, and but one thing that I realized once I went into track and field and I saw the facilities available for national champions and sportsmen, I realized there's a huge problem, and that we were not able to achieve great results because of the effects of facilities not being there. But by the time I went to the US, and when I went to study in the US, I started being exposed to great gyms and world-class facilities. And then I started to realize that we need these kinds of facilities in Sri Lanka, not only to impact sports and take sports to the next level, but also in the fitness and exercise side of it, we hadn't fully understood what gyms was and how exercise impacts us. When I first wanted to start the first gym and the idea came up, I had a couple of friends in the US studying with me, and then they said, I said, I want to start a gym in Sri Lanka. And then they were like, yeah, how much are you going to charge them? Okay. So I said, 500 rupees. They said, what? 500 rupees? Nobody's going to pay 500 rupees for your gym. Yeah. They'll wear a pair of tennis shoes and run around the grounds. They're not going to pay for gym facilities and exercise, Yeah. So that was a start, and that was the thought process of most people. So I knew that there was huge potential and there was a need for fitness. There's a need. So when I started the first gym, I realized that I was the only lone voice screaming, exercise, do fitness, it's important. And right. I remember when I first opened the gym and, I had people coming and walking around the machines and saying, what's that machine do? Looking at a leg press machine.
That was all new to Sri Lanka.
Totally new, And one of the problems that we had was that typically a global concept tends to come to Sri Lanka once enough people have tasted the product outside.
Yeah.
And then it makes sense when it comes.
Absolutely.
But fitness had not even crossed the Atlantic into the into UK at
All
that
right.
time.
Okay.
That much, you know.
Okay.
And I was bringing this into Sri Lanka, which was right on the other side of the world. So going to gyms and fitness, no one has done it before. No one done it even in the US from Sri Lanka as such, you know. And so it was a completely new concept. And I had to explain every single machine. Now we take it for granted that, you know, this
of
machine
course.
does that and all. But then it was completely new, and I had to educate the whole nation, scream, shout about it, and it took years to get people to understand the value of exercise and fitness and physical transformation and how we can compete against the world as sportsmen. So that battle, I mean, that whole thing came about that way. And the more I got involved in it, the deeper I dove into it, the deeper I tried to understand the subject, how to transform the Sri Lankan physical body compared to what's in Europe and the US. How do we feed children? How to get our children to become as big as the Europeans? How do we compete and build physical structures that can compete at the Olympic Games level? So multiple questions had to be answered as Sri Lankans. How do we become world class in every area? So by Powell jump-starting the process, I think Sri Lanka had a head start in regards to fitness and exercise, because I remember when UK people, you know, people from who tourists who come to Sri Lanka in the late 90s, when they walked into Powell, they would be like, wow, we don't have gyms like this in England.
They didn't expect
in
that,
London,
yeah.
we don't have gyms like this in London, you know. So we were way ahead, and that really jump-started, just got the whole thing moving for everyone.
Nice.
And the subject became a very central, you know, an area of part of my, you know, whole service and the way I went about it.
Brilliant. Powell, I'm sure, inspired a lot of gyms to start in Sri Lanka, the fitness industry. And when we were leaving school, I think Powell was that gym that we all wanted to go and, you know, take part and be a member. And it's a 3 decades journey. What a wonderful journey, Talavou, it has been. Talavou, before I get into each myth, what is the biggest myth of the mother of all myths of fitness industry?
So the biggest myth, and I would say a mistake, or I would say a lie, that we have all believed for a long time, is that it's not good to be hungry.
Right. Okay.
That you know, being hungry is bad. You know, and because being hungry is bad, we tend to have this thing called breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then snacks in between.
Yeah.
Right, saying that, you know, being hungry is bad, and this is the biggest lie that we have believed for a long, long time. But all animal studies have been showing that when there is a reduced consumption of food, the life expectancy increases by 30%.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
And so when glucose and insulin is abundant in the bloodstream, there's a tendency for the longevity genes to switch off. So the more abundance you have and the more food you consume, the shorter your life becomes. And the less food you consume and you minimize the glucose, flooding your system, the longer your life expectancy becomes.
Right.
So there's a huge turnaround that has happened, and this breakfast, lunch, and dinner must have. If you don't have, you are hungry, it's not good, is a lie that has really dominated us for years.
Wow, okay.
And we've been told, and that probably is the biggest mistake that we've done that has brought about so many sicknesses and diseases since then. But now scientists are starting to realize that it is the less food you eat
Right.
is what keeps your body to really function at its highest level.
Right. Okay.
Right. And so there was this scientist that discovered his Yoshinori. He's a Nobel Prize winner in 2016, and he discovered the benefits of fasting.
Right.
And he won a Nobel Prize for that scientist. And what he discovered was that when the body is in fast or lacks food, the body goes to a self-cleaning process and a breaking down of cells which need to be recycled. And the body goes through this massive healing process that triggers a longevity, and all sicknesses like cancer and Alzheimer's disease cannot exist in that environment of fasting.
Okay.
And it's a massive cleanup that happens in the body every time you fast. And for that, he won the Nobel Prize. And from that, intermittent fasting has become very a central, very central theme of many weight loss programs.
Right.
Is because of this huge amount of calorie reduction that is required, that this breakfast, lunch, and dinner story does not hold any longer, and that needs to change. When that changes, most of what sicknesses that we all carry also automatically dwindles away.
Fantastic. I mean, this actually opened up my mind also, because we've been, from childhood, we've been taught about, eat on time, eat this, eat that.
Must eat,
If
must
you
take
miss
this.
a meal,
Yeah,
also
not
it's a
good.
big issue. Yeah, so interesting. So let's get into some critical ones. A lot of people talk about losing fat. That's, I think, the central focus of fitness among most of the circles I've been speaking to. Doing hours and hours of cardio, will that help to lose fat?
Okay, so fat loss, the issue of the shape itself changing takes place because of your metabolic rate. So if your metabolic rate is very high, the chances of you actually putting on weight or changing of your shape because of fat is minimal, right? And if a metabolic rate is quite low, the ability for the body to burn the calories, if it's low, then you tend to put on weight rapidly, right? And what influences that the most is the muscle type that you have. So if you are a more red muscle fiber type, which is a more endurance muscle fiber, if you have more of that muscle fiber in your body, your metabolic rate is very high. So you tend to burn. That's why you see marathon runners who are very thin, they can eat any amount of food, they never gain weight. There are people who can eat a lot of food and nothing happens to them. On the other extreme, you have guys where the metabolic rate is super low, those who have a dominant white fiber dominant muscles. Those are miserable at burning calories, but they are very powerful muscle fibers. So they are the strong men. And the tendency is that those strong men and women are the ones that tend to put on weight the most.
Okay.
So the weight problem applies to that group that has this particular muscle fiber. And that's why they put on weight rapidly compared to a person who's red fiber dominant. So when you go to cardio, the gift for cardio is with the red fiber person who's already thin.
Right.
He has no problem with weight because he doesn't put on weight. And he can keep running and never feeling tired. But it's a torture for the white fiber guy who's naturally putting on weight because of his metabolic rate being limited or the mitochondrial density is very low. That group suffers when you have to do cardios.
Right.
But their gifting is strength. So the way they lose weight is by doing strength training.
Right, okay.
And not cardio. The more muscle they build, the more mitochondrial density that's on the muscle, the furnace of that burns calories on the muscle starts to increase in size.
Okay.
So the larger the surface area of the muscle, the more mitochondria exists.
Okay.
And therefore you burn more.
Right.
So every pound of muscle or kilo they tend to burn 100, 200 calories of calories just because they had that muscle. So if you put 10 kilos of muscle, you're burning 1,500 calories just because you put 10 kilos of muscle.
Right.
Right? So for them, it's the strengthening part. Through the strength training is where you lose weight. It's not necessarily by doing cardio. Cardio is excellent to improve your blood vessel circulation, the heart, blood vessels. That part of it is fantastic.
Yeah.
But not for structure. Structure has to be strength. And the people who have the problem about weight are normally the people who are strong by nature.
Right.
And they are the ones, for them the solution is strength training. The stronger they become, the quicker they lose their weight.
Absolutely.
So it's not cardio the solution, it's actually strength training.
So what I gathered was, Talo, that there are different body types. There's no one program fits all. Because based on your body structure, your metabolism, the programs need to change. The strength training has to come in, etc.
Yes.
Interesting. Let's move into, now that we spoke about nutrition, about supplements. Some people believe that you need to get whey protein or supplements to put on muscle and while you work out, a pre-workout supplement, etc. What are your thoughts on this?
It has a place. So supplements are actually superfoods. They are foods that are in a concentrated form that doesn't exist in natural. So for instance, if you take a whey protein which has 70%, 80% protein within it, where meat, fish, chicken is only 25%. So that's all there is in foods. So supplementation comes in as a supplement. It's not a substitute.
Right.
Right. So there's a certain amount of protein that our body needs for us to function. And one of our problems in Sri Lanka is that we are deficient in our normal eating lifestyle, about 50% deficient in protein.
Protein intake.
That's why we are physically smaller than the Europeans and the Americans. Not that we have a genetic problem, we just have a food problem. And because we eat less protein, we tend to have less
heavy on the
protein.
carb side, I
We're
guess.
heavy on the carb side,
Yeah.
and therefore we have a lack of protein coming in, and therefore our structure is smaller. So in that instance, it becomes a supplement that helps you you consume it, so that there's an instant absorption that happens. Not food will take 2, 3, 4 hours to digest,
yeah.
but this will digest in just 30
Quicker time.
minutes.
Okay.
So it all depends on whether the more of an athlete you become, and the more training that takes place in your life, and competing supplements makes a huge difference. Now, if you look at Michael Phelps, the gold medalist, won so many gold medals, probably the highest gold medals in the Olympics.
Yeah.
He needs 12,000 calories per day for
Right.
his physical size. A normal human being consumes 2,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
Right, so you're talking about 5 times he has to eat. If he does 5 times eating and 3 hours to digest each time, he won't be training, he'll be eating,
yeah.
right? So that's where supplements become, because
Right.
superfoods come in
You
to
additional-
additional.
yeah.
So it's
Okay.
been a great blessing. Actually, supplementation has been a great benefit to the world of sport and exercise and fitness, to be able to tax your body much more, receive more benefit from the body structure-wise and strength-wise than we had before, because the science of absorption, of how to take this, has become a huge thing. But there's a difference between supplements and medicine.
Right.
So supplements are called nutraceuticals, and medicine is called pharmaceuticals. So they're in the pharmaceutical vertical.
Yeah.
The difference between the pharmaceutical vertical and the nutraceutical vertical is that pharmaceuticals have side effects, and nutraceuticals don't have side effects.
Okay.
Now that's why my grandmother can put a chutney in Cargills,
Yeah.
without having to get all the approvals,
Yeah.
because food doesn't cause side effects.
Sure.
Right? So supplements is in the nutraceutical side of it, right? But it comes in a different form. It comes in capsules. It'll come in a container,
yeah.
and therefore there is a tendency to read it as a medicine when it's not a medicine. It's a food supplement, so it's a food-based.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at sports high performance competition, and the number of suppliers that exist in the world that are trying to get their product out, there's a tendency to bring something from the pharmaceutical side
This vertical.
into this vertical, right? And they call it spiking. So they
Right.
spike the supplement to give you a stimulation, a boost
Yeah.
that normally doesn't exist in a food,
I see. Okay.
right? And that is where you fail doping tests, sportsmen have an issue. But for general fitness people who are not going for a doping test and
yeah.
they just want to put muscle,
Yeah.
they have no problem with it. So they'll say this supplement is better than that supplement
Yeah.
because, they feel good.
Yeah.
But the question that you ask is that, how does it impact our health? How it's going to impact us overall? How's the negative impact,
Yeah.
on our organs? That is not understood
Very
and not
interesting.
appreciated.
Yeah.
And so it's important to understand that food, if I gave you 5 kilos of KFC just now to eat, Gamika, you will eat it. And then if I say, let's go for a nice jog, you say, my gosh, don't talk to me, I want to sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It didn't suddenly make you a superhuman, right?
Absolutely.
But you got like huge amount of protein in that 5 kilos of chicken, right?
yeah.
So that's what food does. Food does not make you a superhuman,
Yeah.
right? But if you drink something and suddenly you feel like I feel like I'm Iron Man and
Yeah.
I'm a caveman and I can fight and I can break my arm and my foot and I can still run.
Yeah.
That's huge red flags,
Absolutely.
right? Because food doesn't do that.
It doesn't do that. Yeah.
Right? So the way you understand supplements is that, if you take it, you should not become superhuman,
Sure,
but the science of it would really help you. So I would say stick to very basic supplements that are talking, not saying whey protein plus my magic formula or my matrix, then it gets scary.
Okay.
Okay? But the body needs nutrition, it needs it at a high concentrated level, and it needs it often and at the certain level to really maximize, and for you as a person who's exercising and training to maximize your body.
Yeah.
So that's the way supplementation works. And supplements is essential because some people can't eat. They struggle to eat. Children struggle to eat.
Yeah.
And that's where whey proteins and all really help the growth of children. And whey protein is something that even my sons consume.
Yeah.
And they're different age groups. So there's no problem. Whey protein actually is a byproduct of milk.
Milk, yeah.
So it's just 20% of milk is whey and 80% is casein.
Right.
So this is a component. It's a milk derivative. In that way, it's safe.
Yeah.
Whey protein, as long as it's only whey protein. But it's whey protein and something,
And
then we
something.
have a problem going here, right? So supplement is excellent for people who are recovering from surgery. Whey protein does a wonderful job there. I mean, sportsmen, we all know how it benefits muscle building and the importance of it. And our bodies need protein, and that is a huge component. And the largest organ in our body is muscle, and this muscle needs a lot of protein.
Right.
And the Sri Lankan diet doesn't support it most
that,
of the
yeah.
time. So either we make up our minds and eat the protein that is needed, or we have to supplement.
Supplement it.
And that's something. That's how supplementation. So it has its science. It has,
Sure.
its way of contributing to sport and individual exercise experiences of each person.
Quick tip from you to select the right the supplement. What do you have to read through? Do you need to specifically look at something, or it depends, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you so the best way to look at the protein, I mean, content is very important.
Right.
So if you don't have a 70% to 80% protein concentration, that product is there's no point in it, because anyway, meat, fish, chicken gives me 25% concentration.
Okay.
Right. So if I'm going to spend money, I need to spend something that is
Which
high
gives- yeah.
and gives me the real absorption that I need for my body.
Got it.
So I would always look at the higher range of protein concentrations when I'm purchasing, whether you're a sportsman or into fitness.
All right. The next myth, it's regarding female athletes. I mean, a lot of females who go to the gym and all that want to have a toned body, but doesn't want to get bulky by lifting weights. What's the real truth behind it? I mean, lifting weights, will it bulk you up, or will it help you in terms of toning down?
Yeah, so I think this is a huge problem that ladies struggle with, and they avoid strength training, believing that that's what they want to avoid, because they see in magazines all these bodybuilding ladies with all these muscles bulging, and they're afraid that they'll become that overnight.
Yeah.
Right. To start with, to build muscle, you have to have testosterone, and that's a male hormone.
Yeah.
Right. And the women have estrogen, which is a female hormone. Now, estrogen is not like testosterone; it cannot build muscle.
Right.
And that's the reality. So there's a complete difference between the women's estrogen and men's testosterone,
yeah.
right? Women have testosterone increases taking place when it's childbirth, when they're pregnant, the growth of the child and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then those testosterone levels increase.
Levels goes up, yeah.
But otherwise, it's estrogen that's the dominant one. So you could do the same workout. A man could do the same workout, and the lady can do the same work. Nothing will look or different that much in a lady, but the guy will put on muscle,
Right.
Because he has more testosterone,
Oh, right, okay.
So he will respond to it rapidly, and he will grow muscle, because that is the main hormone of his body. So ladies will not put on, but the little muscle that they will put on will be a huge furnace for burning fat, for toning the body, to keep it strong, to mobility, for joint function,
Functions,
for
flexibility,
immunity
yeah.
purposes, getting over infections, and so much of benefit comes when you do strength training.
Right.
That they must do strength training, but that what gives the quality of life and brings about the structure to be able to handle any kind of thing that takes place. So that's something that they should not worry.
Okay.
And that building of muscle is actually with the men.
Sure.
And the testosterone side
All
of
right.
it.
The next myth is about meal plans. For the benefit of some of my friends, colleagues at the studio also, you have a strict diet, you do a workout, but you have maybe a cheat meal on Friday or Saturday. How does that affect Talo?
Yeah, so to start with, the important thing now is, like I mentioned in the beginning, right? It's eating. You don't have to be, even if you're hungry, does not mean that you should eat. So the going science today is that you eat less calories. So as a lifestyle, if you are consuming less calories throughout the day, and that has been your lifestyle, and reducing, maybe dropping one of those meals off. So either you drop off the breakfast or you drop off dinner, and you stick to 2 meals a day, and then you have a cheat meal at the end of the week. There's no big deal about that. But today, it's not about what you eat. It's not what you eat, but when you eat that matters. It's now about timing. It's not the mix of food. So you can have 2 meals a day. You can eat what you want, but of course everything in moderation.
Yeah.
But eat well and fill yourself for 2 meals, and then to the clock you stay 16 hours. To the clock you stay without food, just having water. And if you can hold that lifestyle of eating, the fat will melt away. Sickness cannot touch you. Cancers cannot touch you. No sickness can really affect you, because the malfunctioning cells in our body cannot handle a fasting state. Because when there's no glucose available, the body, let's say glucose that comes from food is, let's say, good carbohydrates coming in is octane 95. When you go to fast, that octane 95 is not available, right?
Yeah.
But the body still functions. And the reason it functions on this octane 300 called ketones.
Right.
That comes from the liver. The body produces its own petrol.
Right.
And when it produces that, normal healthy cells can handle that. But malfunctioning cells like cancer cells and others cannot handle ketones. And therefore, they wither away and they die and they get recycled. So sickness cannot enter our body if we maintain a minimum, 12 to 16 hour fast. And that should be a lifestyle that everybody adapts. So it's not about cheating at the end of it. It's about a lifestyle of eating where you don't give yourself more than 2 meals and you eat what you want. It doesn't matter what you eat. But you have to have the silence. The period of silence of 16 hours is a huge winner. It's a massive game changer.
Yeah.
And if there's one message in regards to eating and how much you got to eat, you got to maintain that silence. 16-hour fast, within the 8-hour window, you have your 2 meals. It doesn't matter if you have tea in the middle or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
But silence, just water for the 16 hours.
Wow, yeah.
It's a huge change for your physical transformation.
I'm sure you have to be conscious about what you, consume, how you consume, and what time of the day, etc. A very interesting topic, Talavou. I can go on for hours, but the time limitation given, so I'll just try to slot in one more myth and get your views on that. I actually have two. Let's try to handle two. There's a myth. I have also experienced at some point of time when you are a very engaged athlete and you suddenly stop your sporting career, you tend to bulk up. Or people also believe that you go to the gym and suddenly stop, your muscle will turn into fat. What's the truth behind it?
It's completely, it's a myth, because muscle is standalone, its own vertical, and fat is a completely different
Vertical there.
Yeah, vertical there. So these two don't change.
Okay.
So, but the reason is this. So when you train, you exercise, the calorie demand and the need comes about because you got to have more protein, more carbohydrates to actually do sports and to really exercise or to do the gymming. So your appetite tends to increase, and you supply it, you gain some muscle, because this is not air, right? It's food, all food, right? So I become bigger, and therefore I had to consume at a certain level to become bigger and to continue growth. So I grow and I get used to a eating lifestyle of a certain quantity of food that keeps coming in. Now I go and stop sport.
Yeah.
And I stop
the
gymming.
activity stops. Yeah.
But because your body is now addicted to food, because it manages all the hormone secretions, it manages based on what you're throwing at it.
Right.
So body, whatever calories you give it, it tries to manage it in a way that doesn't cause harm to the body.
Right. Okay.
Right? So it's always anticipating that the lunch will be this big, the dinner will be this big, the supplement will come in. And when the body sees that coming in, it starts to manage that and gives you the best physical structure in a healthy way so that you don't get sick. Now the problem is the body is still expecting that to happen, and therefore it's taking some steps. And when it takes those steps, the massive craving comes in. So for instance, you have a big lunch, body is used to getting a lunch at a certain time, and it anticipates a lot of carbohydrates are going to come in. So what it does is half an hour before, it starts to lower the blood sugar levels in your bloodstream.
Right.
because it knows there's going to be a tsunami of rice
Coming
coming
in,
in, right?
right.
So it anticipates that, because the danger of having sugar running around our body is that it'll clog our organs and we can have multiple organ failure. So diabetes, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
Diabetes is sugar running all over. There's no way of controlling it. But on healthy people, that part of it comes. So the body anticipates and reduces the sugar levels in the body. Suddenly you don't give it food.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't give it food, the craving is huge.
Okay.
So you go back, you eat the same amount of food, right? But the activity levels that was managing and handling those calorie burns and all that is
not
gone.
there.
It's
Yeah.
not there anymore.
Right.
So now breakfast, lunch, and dinner and all those snacks, you're continuing,
Yeah.
but you haven't
Done the activity.
done the
on that.
activity
Yeah.
levels. So
Yeah.
now anything that is not turned into energy within 2 to 3 hours becomes fat.
Right.
Any food you take. So at that consumption level, if you keep going without adjusting, then you start to put on weight. So you see this fit athlete stops it, he becomes fat. So what they think is, okay, muscle has become fat.
Right.
But it's a completely different mechanism that has taken place. But it is related enough to cause this problem.
All right, okay. One quick answer I'll expect from this one. Do you really be conscious and counting calories while you eat, or does it happen automatically?
No, so it should have automatically.
Okay.
Your body, you know that once you treat your body to eat less calories and just eat a certain amount of food, and
You train the body into
your body
that.
automatically will assume that that's what's going to come.
Okay.
Right? And to be in this autophagy state of fasting, your body will adapt automatically to whatever you give it.
Okay.
And that will trigger the longevity genes, that will trigger the longer life, and the whole knock-on effect
Right.
downstream throughout your life will be amazing, as long as you make those adjustments that are need to be done.